"I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do," the doctor said to me while he turned off the machine. As my lungs began to fail and my vision go black, the doctor left and added, "There's just been a shortage of organ donors." My brother-in-law got a standing ovation from my family, as they all praised him for helping to lift everyone's spirits. He took a small bow after finishing his ventriloquist act, before placing my 2-month-old baby back in the coffin. I recently discovered a device that replays the moments in your life when you were the closest to death. But it's all just clips of me sleeping. I never let being paralyzed from the waist down stop me from living a happy and fruitful life. I hated my disability as I crawled along the ground in a desperate attempt to escape the burning building. I couldn't move a muscle as a demon wrapped its hands around my throat. I didn't know what possessed my newborn, but I knew that I couldn't kill something that I had given birth to. I considered myself a hero after saving a girl from a man who was throwing acid on her. It was only after I felt her teeth sink into my throat that I realized it had actually been holy water. I was stunned after my wife filed for divorce and dressed up like a female nanny so I could see my children again. After poisoning her latest boyfriend, I spent the next few months slowly breaking her sanity to ensure that I would get my children back. I waited as my clock turned from 11:59 to 12 a.m. But then I saw the words on my computer's calendar, December the 32nd. I begged my boss for a few days off over Christmas after slaving away for him all year. Santa Claus simply laughed at me and then began whipping me as he reminded me that Christmas was only 364 days away. Sugar-soad wrote a short story for me this evening about my family that truly gave me chills. I woke up in the middle of the night to a message saying he was outside and he was now doing true stories, and the one he wrote for me was going to be his first. I laughed out loud and told them, "Whoops, Butterfingers." The parents didn't say a word and just stared down at their newborn baby, who lay there deathly still on the tile floor. "If you sell me your soul for fame and fortune, I'll come to collect it in 7 years." It's notable how many aspiring musicians come to make this deal at the age of 20. I begged my son to stop singing and be quiet as we watched the chaos unfolding outside. He just kept singing, "It's raining men, hallelujah," as an endless stream of mutilated remains plummeted to the ground. I hate how every conversation I have is always one-sided. I can hear them speaking to me, but I can't wake up to reply. I held my breath as the intruder walked past the bedroom closet, hoping he doesn't look inside. If the cop finds all the bodies I hid there, I'm screwed. We've all been taught to fear hell. But when the gates opened, what truly terrified us was that it was empty. I knew an old lady who swallowed a fly. Judging by all the police cars outside our home, I'm guessing that was just the start of her strange behavior. My mother scolded me for being so materialistic and pointed out that this could be something borrowed for my sister's wedding. I just lay there silently, staring down at my mastectomy scars, while my sister stood in front of the mirror, admiring her new breasts. I wish my cats weren't such picky eaters. I'll never get rid of this damn body at this rate. My captor promised to release me if I finished consuming my husband's remains. He kept telling me to imagine it was just coffee, as he poured the warm water and sugar over my husband's ashes. I smiled as I told them, I'm serious and don't call me Shirley. I was disappointed after the parents didn't even laugh, as my partner explained that their son's mutilated remains were spread across a 5-mile radius. She began to scream in agony when I attached the wires to her ears, as the electrical current flowed through her. Her screams of agony turned to screams of terror when she spotted the remains of her body spread across the room. My wife repeatedly begged me to fix the leak, as there was a constant flow of water dripping down. I watched over the years as the water slowly cut through her shackled body until it finally reached the other side. Blake thought it was comical when the old witch cursed him to an eternity of living out his favorite moments. That was until he realized that this time around, he experienced them as his victims had. Dozens of rescue teams spent almost a week after the captain had issued an SOS message. None could explain how the plane could just float in the air, or how all the passengers' bodies had been turned inside out. After drifting off to sleep, Rose's eyes immediately flew open when she heard her mom singing Hush Little Baby. Rose immediately got up and ran out of the house as fast as she could, since she had buried her dead mom just the day before. I couldn't help but giggle as I pressed the button to activate the mechanism and sat back to watch the fun. My sister let out a scream of joy and ran up onto the altar after she saw her 2-year-old son's corpse suddenly sit up in the coffin. I was at the bridal store today to pick up my sister's dress. As I was leaving, I noticed that there was a mannequin who looked just like her standing by the mirror. Chris smiled as he slid on the horrible mask and stared at himself in the mirror. His smile suddenly faded when he saw his lips move and heard a hideous voice rasp, "Ah, your skin feels just right. I think I'll keep it." I was so happy after my wish was granted and my life became more like a video game. I cursed my wish, as the only way I could consume any food was to purposely injure myself so that the food would replenish my health. I told my little boy that his new nightlight would keep the monsters away. I hope he never finds out that it's really a signal to the monsters in his closet to protect my son from his perverted father. When I was 10, my mother pulled me out of school and devoted herself to teaching me survivalist, mechanical, and medical skills. By the time the war destroyed most of civilization, she was already long dead, so I never found out how she knew. My father was extremely overprotective and always refused to let me leave the house unsupervised. I realized my husband was exactly like my father, as he used the axe to cut off my legs so that I would never leave. After spotting a pair of glowing eyes in the corner of his bedroom, Paul shook it off and calmly assured himself that he must have imagined it. He then felt a chill run down his spine as he suddenly heard a deep, raspy voice whisper behind him. "You are not imagining this. I'm really here." There are beings so horrifying, so terrifying that our brains block them out. Haven't you ever wondered why you get a random feeling of being watched, but nothing is around? When I heard the sound of a woman screaming for help, I instantly rushed over. Luckily, I was able to put her gag back on before anyone heard. My victim screamed in agony as the foam sprayed out of her eviscerated stomach. She begged me to stop as I once again poured the coke on top of her intestines and prepared to add the Mentos. I thought death would be the most freeing feeling. But as the hours passed and I looked over my dead body pleading for someone to notice, I realized it only trapped me more. My father always took great delight in teaching me how to tie laces when I was growing up. After my failed suicide attempt, he now has the same enthusiasm while showing me the correct way to tie a noose. My son's been missing for over 5 months now, and the police told me they found him. All my relief disappeared when I realized they dressed a stranger up in my boy's clothes. My daughter lay on the bed weeping and begging us to stop, as we all stood above her laughing and enjoying the show. I flashed the strobe light into her eyes, and we all watched as she suffered yet another epileptic fit. After bumping into the wall, Adam was annoyed when his nose began to bleed. After 10 minutes, his annoyance turned to alarm when he saw that the blood was still gushing out, and he could feel himself becoming very lightheaded. My mother always told me that you can achieve anything if you persist at it. I couldn't help but feel proud while listening to her screams, as I managed to cut off all of her skin without drawing any blood. They say money can't buy you happiness. But for some people, it's enough to pay a hitman to take care of someone so they can be happy. My husband swore on our wedding day that he would give his life to protect me. After watching him fulfill his promise while protecting me from the undead, I now lie frozen in fear as his corpse crawls towards me. Gripping the knife in his trembling hand, Liam braced himself as he then proceeded to cut off 2 of his own fingers. Sure, it was painful, but he also knew it was the only way he could please his now cannibal of a daughter. My elderly mother was so happy that I brought her snacks for her birthday, as she had forgotten what day it was. I stood there holding the EpiPen while she clutched her throat, struggling to breathe, and couldn't wait to do this again tomorrow. Some of the lights in the night sky aren't stars. They're camera lights. My mother told me that she worries about me sometimes. Thankfully, with the help of needle and thread, I'll never have to listen to her snide comments ever again. I was so happy when I finished and couldn't wait to see my wife's reaction. She lay there speechless while gazing down at the stitches as I explained that I had helped her achieve her childhood dream of becoming a senator. Myron hated school as he was daily picked on by a bully. It was only after the bully was beaten to death by his drunken father that Myron began to enjoy school. I begged them to stop as they snapped another finger and promised them that I would find a way to pay them. The doctors finally handed me my screaming newborn as I tried my best to comfort him. By the fourth or so victim, my carving became quite legible enough to be read. Why still do they let their children wander into my forest? I set my knight into place and declared checkmate at the end of a long game of chess with death. Now, knowing how badly burned and mangled my body had been after the accident, I wish I had lost. My unconscious wife laid unmoving as I used the hacksaw to open her ribs so that I could get to her organs. I picked up the stapler and stapled her stomach shut, as I've heard that this was a great way of losing weight, and I hoped she would appreciate her anniversary present. I love trolling people on the internet and laughing to myself as I told someone to come to my house and fight me if he dared. I cursed my stupidity for inadvertently inviting it inside as it sunk its fangs into my throat. I was forced to watch as they ripped off the limbs of my family and forcibly reattached the limbs to others. I wish that I could tell the humans that we Lego figurines can feel pain and are immortal. But we have been cursed to endure our agony in silence. Hey, something with my face is stalking me. Please send help. Was the text I just received from my brother dated 5 days earlier? I thought about how he had just said at dinner an hour earlier that his camping trip had been totally uneventful. I could see the concern on my sibling's face as my elderly mother was adamant that our father was haunting her house as she kept seeing him. After she was convinced to move into a retirement community, I stood there gazing at the image of my father before removing the hidden projector from my new home. Sarah couldn't help but laugh as she watched her little sister crawling on the floor. Meanwhile, her sister kept wondering what she had done to push her sister to want to cut off her feet. I was so happy when I found it and immediately ran to find my mommy to show her. She fell to the floor crying as she gazed down at my baby brother's body, as I proudly told her I had used a hammer to find the soft spot in his skull. My sister thinks she won, stealing my rich fiancé from me. Little does she know that I let her have him after I found out how his last 3 wives had died. I was trolling through the dark web one night when I came across a live feed of a girl kneeling on the concrete floor of a basement. Recognizing my best friend, my confusion turned to horror as I saw bids being placed in the live chat. We prepared an extensive autopsy after their bodies were recovered, and we were surprised to discover they had died by drowning as their lungs were full of seawater. None of the world's top scientists were able to figure out how the astronauts drowned aboard the International Space Station. As he stroked the cat who lay in his lap, Cyrus felt warm tears stream down his face. He also cursed himself for throwing the poor, innocent creature against the wall in a fit of rage. My mother explained to me that she had made him sleep outside in the kennel last night, as he had another accident inside. I ran out to find my newborn son's frozen corpse buried under a light layer of snow. My sister thinks she won, stealing my rich fiancé from me. Little does she know that I let her have him, after I found out how his last 3 wives had died. I saw a man outside my basement window last night. I pray he will call the police on my father and free me from my restraints. I convinced my daughter to stop using drugs and accept meditation and prayer into her life. Schizophrenic is just what the secular world uses to discredit God's chosen ones. Hey, remember to hit that like button, subscribe/follow if you're new, and check out my website for everything about me. Thanks for watching, guys.